the fact that we did get up here and traded off of it a little bit and then came back up here and retesting it. If you stayed with it, that's fine. Getting a nice little rotation here. If you didn't, that's fine too. If you got in at 53, that's great. You got a nice rotation off of that. Different ways of trading. That's all I'm throwing out there. There's not one right way or wrong way. That's all I'm trying to say. Yippers. Anybody has any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. We don't mind questions here. Comments, they're not only questions, comments. All right, next level on the upside we got is up at 64. So again, the VIX is a solid 19 now. Bond market, though, giving up some gains. This is like the scenario where they say, they rallied before the number and then, buy the rumor and sell the fact, right? Seems like that's what the bond market is doing right now. They have recognized that what they were doing is right, and that then all of a sudden now they're selling off here a little bit.
That's probably a great indicator if you know how to use it. It just does not make any sense to me.
The bond market?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of weird because on this last move off of the highs, the bonds and the S&Ps and the equity market and the bond market were going the same way, which is very rare. We talked about it here many a time, trying to understand what they were doing. But then interest rates were going up. Market wasn't appreciating that, and recession worries, blah, blah, blah. Now we're kind of, maybe we're here and bond market, S&Ps equities are rallying a little bit here. Maybe now we're getting back to what is considered kind of normal, maybe in regards to inverse trade with bonds and equities. I don't know. I'm just saying that usually they do inverse trade. Obviously, because of the last rotation off the highs and where interest rates were and what they represented as far as what it means to the economy and the consideration that it was going to create a recession, they kind of went together, which was understandable. But now, right now, with the move up here to, well, they got up to 42, and I mean, it's also, you got to remember, the bond market also, for bond traders, this is a nice rally that they had from the 30 handles to up here to the 42. So they're also taking a little bit of a breather, and the fact that the number is out, everybody was expecting a good number, and you could see it was a good number, and they did rally it off the number, and then now they're just taking profits. It's I can see that. And again, we also in the equities rallied now very strongly. Maybe at some point we are going to get a little bit of a breather and a rotation back off of those, but I don't know. So yeah, the point is that we've in the normal trade, and again, normal is in quotes, is the inverse trade between equities and bonds. We did not get that off of the slash rotation off the highs and the equities, but now maybe at some point we're going to start getting it here. I don't know. We'll see. But equities also, we're going to hit a technical rotation here and hitting some stops from guys who are been, who have big stops, and the market might get out of the bear territory here as well. So, and the S&Ps.
Something that's been happening the last 2 days, the E-minis have been front running the SPX.
Mm-hmm. Well, that could be. I mean, again, that goes back to the inverse trade kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, usually it's just the opposite.
Right. Well, lately,
Yeah.
but now it's we'll see what I mean. Look, bond market rallied very strongly here, and this is this is an inflation number. Maybe now the bond market is saying, again, I'm guessing that we had this was the number that they were expecting. They rallied it beforehand based on the fact that they were going to get a decrease in inflation numbers. And so they got it. And so now they're just taking profits. That's one scenario. The other scenario is that, well, all these increases finally worked. And now we're going to see if we're going to need any more. So we're going to basically kind of go sideways here until we see if we need some more raises, because 1 month doesn't really indicate whether everything's going to work or not. So we have to see what happens next month. Again, this is a long-term thing. It's not a short-term thing. So we trade every day, and we're looking for ebbs and flows, which is fine. And we need, we can't figure out, for you and me to try to figure out what they're doing with all that money that they're throwing around. It's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not on that list of, going to jail. So, cause we don't have that much, we don't have that much money to throw around to manipulate those markets like they have.
We don't have enough spoofing capital.
No, we don't. We definitely don't have enough spoofing capital. That's for sure. That's funny. That is very funny. All right, let's see here.
Well, are you finished with basketball?
Yeah, this is my 1 month that I have nothing. I get a 1 month reprieve. I get back from our tournament, and school doesn't start till the end of the month, and so I get my 1 month where I don't do it. And it's kind of it's good. It's fine for about a week, and then I get like, okay, let's go. School start again.
Well, let me ask you this now. Since the tournament's over, last year's gone, you're going to start a new year. Do you have to go out and get all new players, or do you get to keep some of the same players you already had?
So that's a good question, because I do have age restrictions. All right. Uh-huh. So if I had usually, I do have to go get new players. So it starts over again, and I have to go and recruit some new kids. What usually happens is that I have like 5 different schools, and I kind of depend on those kids who age out and if they go to a different school, to kind of let me know if there's anybody that's coming up in their programs at the basketball, at their whatever school that they have or where they're at. And then like I go talk to them and say, hey, you got recommended by this and this player. Do you think maybe you'd be interested? So the players that I have who age out help me get new players.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice for me, because it keeps me in the loop with a lot of schools, and I can't be at every school, but if I know that there's a player that I might be interested in, they'll let me know. So that is a good thing. And of course, this year though, I can get most of my players that I took for next year because they didn't age out. So I have a core this year, and for next year, and then we'll see. I need to obviously get a full squad because I can't go with, I can't do it with just 7. How long have you been?
But I mean, even if, where do you source new talent from? Just other games and stuff?
Yeah, I go to schools, high school games. I go watch high school games. I go go talk to the kids after their game really quick, tell them what I do, and they're interested. Sometimes I get a good reception, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I gotta get more. They need more information, so they gotta talk to parents. So so it's just a matter of going out there and doing some legwork. I do go to a lot of games. I don't mind. I love when my kids were playing when they were younger. I would be like in 4 gyms in one night. I loved it, and I'd be like in one gym, then go right to another, and then go to one more, go see my kids' game, go to one more game after that, and I would just be all over the place. But one time, I was in 4 gyms at one night. How long I've been doing this for like 25 years, so I've been doing this for a long time.
You've been doing it just about as long as you've traded, haven't you?
Yeah, actually, I've been doing it longer than I was. I started when I was very young, before I was out of college even. So I was been trading a lot. Actually, it's more than 25 years, but we just say 25 years. Sounds like a good number. Nobody funds me. I wish I could say that I was getting. My wife wishes that I was getting paid for all the stuff that I do. That's not the case. I do just. I get paid a little bit from the school that I coach, but that's minimal for the amount of time I put into it. But yeah, it's more for the love of the game than anything else. It was watching kids buy into something, watching kids get better, and watching them appreciate when there is success. When you win some games that maybe you weren't supposed to win, how they're excited they get, and also beyond basketball, we do teach life skills a little bit. I think over the years, I've gotten to the point where we do learn. There's some life skills that are taught through basketball. I'm a big believer in sports and life skills that you can learn from it, that you take on to, because I've been doing it for such a long time. I get old players who come back and appreciate, they say some nice things about what they've learned besides basketball from the experiences that they had. So an age group, I go from 14 up to 17, 18. So varsity high school players, basically. All right, we are just kind of coming off the highs here. They got up to 60 and change. Thanks, I appreciate that. So I've had some nice wins that I can attribute to some over the years. And my one daughter, who she likes the coaching part of it, and she always knows strategy and stuff like that. So any big win that I've ever had, she takes credit for it completely. Because she tells me, this is what we have to do. This is what's going on. This is how we're going to do it. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to do this. So she actually was in San Diego. She came out with her boyfriend just for the tournament. And so I spent Saturday with her and her boyfriend. We had a great day, went all over the place. I had dinner with them. It was very nice. And then they came to the games and watched some of the games. And so we had one of one of the toughest game that we had. And so before the game, she goes, "What's the plan, Dad?" Because she knew that if we just went out there and did what I go, "No, we have to do this." And she goes, "Right, that's what I was thinking too." So yeah, so that she's any big win I've had, and I've won a regional in the state tournament here. She takes full credit for that, even though she was in Michigan State at the time. But nope, she takes full credit for me winning that regional game.
Does your wife teach?
She used to.
Yeah.
She used to teach, but she doesn't. She's just now baby. Like she's out today watching one of the kids' babies. So she's babysitting now.
But
No, she didn't.
she's
play.
loving that.
Yeah. No, she didn't play at Michigan State. None of my kids played. They played in high school, but not all of them. But none of them played college. But she was at Michigan State for our undergrad, and we spoke. And after that game, I remember it was a far ride. I was on the phone with her for like 45 minutes, telling her exactly what happened. She appreciated it. So she's the one that came out to San Diego. So she's got it all figured out for me. She helps me out, and that's only one. The other ones are one of them does not care. The other two played. So it was good to have one of my daughters who is into it like I am. She just doesn't have time to coach, though. She would coach. I think she'd be good too, but she just doesn't have time.
Well, that it sounds like a fair trade. The wife gets the baby and you get the dog.
Oh, there's no dog here. Stop. No. There is no. No. Don't go there. We've already talked to her and said, look, next time you go on this like long trip, even I go, just don't think about it. You better figure something out because it's not going to stay here for 4 days. No, there's just way too much work. Just not having it. Do you have a dog?
No.
Oh, see? Yeah.
No, I know better.
Well, so do I, except when they, and then she sends pictures of him. Oh, look how cute he is. He's so beautiful. I'm like, okay. She's a little crazy about him.
The other day on the news, they were saying that we spent, I'll probably get this wrong, $10 billion a year on our pets.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no doubt.
I'm going, my goodness.
Yeah, well, they're beautiful. Some of them are just beautiful. They need a lot of attention and food.
Yeah, they eat lots.
They do eat a lot. So,
growing up, we had grandfather had dogs, but if you grew up around a farm, if you didn't have the use for the animal, you just didn't have it for a pet. You had to feed that sucker. He had to go. He either earned his keep or he had to go.
mm-hmm.
He could not stay.
Yeah.
And but he could walk outside. He'd tell that dog, go out there and round up them cows, and that collie'd go out there and bring every one of them in.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
They're so smart. They are smart. They are very, very smart. They know how to manipulate my wife for sure.
Where's that cookie jar?
No doubt. I mean, that when she goes out for a walk and I get a phone call, could you come out here? And he's not moving. I'm like, oh, okay, great.
He's resting.
Yeah, he's resting in the middle of the street, in the middle of a snowstorm. He just sits there. I'm like, okay, kid, this is not good.
I got through the years, he must have had 8 or 9 dogs, and the rattlesnakes would bite one, and it'd die off, and then he'd get him another one. But they all had the same name.
Oh, the dogs?
Yeah, all their dogs were named Pup. I said, why'd you do that? He said, it's easy to remember. Said,
right?
Like a play.
I understand that. I can understand that.
I'd go in the summertime and I'd look at him and say, is this pup number 4 or number 5?
Right. Yeah. So that's funny you say that because I'm terrible with names, right? So I have all my plays in basketball, and I give numbers to them, and the boys always want names. I'm like, what? What's the difference between a number and a name? For me, it's easier to remember a number and call a play out with a number. Then they coach, much easier with names. I'm like, well, I'm the coach. You're the player. You're going to do what I tell you to do. So you're talking about numbers with the dogs. I understand that totally get that. And I can't. A lot of my plays are just with numbers instead of names. They want like North Carolina, Kansas. I'll give all the high school names. I'm like, okay, we're giving them all numbers, like it or not. Okay, this is like, unfortunately, we're just kind of talking a lot, only because the market's not really. It's kind of moving, but range bound. I did bounce off of that 50 area there. Maybe if you were a little aggressive, you could see what it did. Again, probably better at 40, 45 level, 46. Maybe that's a little better support if it gets back down there. Obviously, we have to be a little bit patient here. These rally markets are slow. Bond market, though, is definitely giving it up here today.
Man.
Yeah, they are giving it up here. We have, what is that? More than a 2-point range. Let me tell you something in the bond. When we were trading the bond market, you had a 1-point range. It was a huge day, just a huge day. We have a 2-point range here, more than a 2-point range.
Since the open?
For the day. Yeah. And I mean, we would trade in the bonds, and if we had a point range, which is 32 ticks, it was a huge day. See that. These days, you're getting these. And the reason we don't trade the bond market is because it just goes one way. There's no ebbs and flows. You can see this trend here. Now, some traders love that, but for what we do, we like ebbs and flows. So I used to love trading the bond market because they used to have ebbs and flows. Used to trade well, very, very well technically, but not anymore, unfortunately. And it does get into this one-way trade, as you can see. The 10s are only down 8 ticks, even though the bond market is down like over a point. So there's a little bit of a, tightening of the yield curve there a little bit.
I really get bored. I shift over and go trade the Dow.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's tough. Dow also kind of moves, but then, again, the Dow, I used to trade the Dow all the time. And, $5 a tick, right? That was $5 a tick. You know how many, I would trade like 2,000 Dows when I was trading, because it only cost me like a dime to trade each contract. So, I mean, a dime to trade each contract. So I trade like 2,000 contracts, and it only cost me $200. That was, when I was trading a lot. So if you think I only spent $200 that was after I spent $50,000
in commissions.
In commissions. Then they nabbed me for only a dime at that point. Okay, you gave us enough, so here. And I still give them another 25,000 at a dime.
Now, when you say you traded 2,000 contracts in the Dow, was that per day, or is that I traded 2,000 at one time?
There were times where I traded 2,000 contracts every day for about a week. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I traded bonds. When I was trading on the floor, I'd trade over 1,000, 1,200 bonds a day, easily. Kept my clerk busy.
I can imagine. I get writer's cramp.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was my problem. So you're supposed, everybody had an acronym on the floor. So you put your acronym down. The person that you traded with has an acronym. An acronym is a three or two letter letter that 3 or 2 letters that identify another person. Nobody had the same acronym on the floor, so everybody had a unique acronym. And every acronym is had a house, a brokerage firm that they got cleared. So when I got really, really busy, I would write the price down of the price that I traded. And most of the time I'd write the acronym down because, okay, Joe, Scott, whatever, Mark, I put all their names down. I know their acronyms by heart because, obviously when you're trading with everybody, you know them. And then I just give her my card with the price and the acronym, and she fills in the house. She goes, checks the trade with the person or his clerk, depending on if they have a clerk or not, and if it matches up with them, they have a buy, I have a sell, everything's hunky dory. It's great. So she's good. She's happy. Like I say, when it got really bad, when I get really, really busy, I would just write the price and the quantity, like a 10 lot at the price, and give her the card, and I tell her fill it out.
Was she in the pit with you?
She would come in she would be in the pit. She'd
Yeah.
come in the pit, get my cards. I had my cards in my pocket, the ones that I wrote up on or I traded with. She would either take them out of my pocket or I'd give it to her, depending on how busy I was. I was always close to the railing where she would,
Yeah.
so it was easier for her just to come in, grab them out of my pocket. And yeah, so most of the time it was under control, and she was okay. But when I gave her those cards that had no price, just the prices and no names, she would look at me and she goes, "Really, really?" She goes, "Really? So what am I supposed to do with this?" I go, "Figure it out. Just figure it out. You'll figure it out." So I mean,
Fill in the blanks.
so what happens is that everybody knew that I had a clerk. So if another trader had a clerk, they would hopefully have my name written down, and they would come and go to my clerk and say, "Did you trade so and so 10 lot with at this price with so and so?" And if I had nothing there, she'd find a 10 lot on my card at that price, and she'd fill in the name. There was a couple times where nobody came into us, and she goes, "Well, who's this?" So now things slowed down a little bit. Then I'm like, okay, I have to try to think here. And again, there's a lot of stuff going on at the time. If I do that, it is very, very busy. So it was probably not a good thing for me to try to figure it out. So usually I'd just say, why don't you just leave it blank, and because I know I traded it, and we'll see what happens. And usually somebody came into me, and I'm okay. If I put a trade down there and I didn't have anybody, to come into me, then I'm responsible for that trade. So I would be, if nobody came into me the next day for a 5 lot that I bought, right, and I have it in my count as a 5 lot I bought, so they would scratch that trade out. So, but technically, I would be short a 5 lot on my statement because that trade never happened. So I would have a position on, even though I didn't know I had a position on, because the next morning or the next day, somebody doesn't come into me for that 5 lot, then I'd be, you cancel my buy, I'd be short a 5 lot. At some point, I have to buy it back, you know. And usually that's an out trade. That's called an out trade. And usually the out trade doesn't go my way. There hasn't been too many good out trades that I had that went my way. So usually they
Y'all don't have to settle up in the afternoons.
You have to settle up by the next morning before the next day.
Oh, okay.
So I had that was the clerk that I had personally. Then there was another clerk that checked all my trades for my firm. And if I had a position on, he would get that information the night before, and he would call me and say, "Do you know you're short this or you're long that or you have a position?" And he would tell me, or this 5 lot didn't, somebody's not. And so he would let me know that there's a problem beforehand.
Yeah.
So, but usually 99 times out of 100, that was okay because I had a good clerk. She knew what she was doing, and she bailed me. I never blamed her. If there was a miscount or anything, I never, we always had, it was very rare that we have a miscount because I'm keeping my count, she's keeping her at the same count. Usually we match up. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how we both mess up and we have a position. So it's not her fault. It's not my fault. It just happens.
Yeah.
And of course, they're always the wrong way.
Of course.
Of course, they're always the wrong way. I'll tell you that much. So, all right, as you can see here, we are talking a lot. We did come here down to the 40. We said we had a little support here at 45, 46. Got right down to that 46 area. Maybe you did jump in. Even though we're talking, we did to say we have support right down. They got down to 46, 45 and change. So if you did jump in there, you had a nice little quick rotation off of that level. We're still trading, even though we're talking. So as soon as I saw where the support level was going to be, I went in there and I put my order in there. So even though I was chit chatting away, we got a nice little rotation down there. It went down there really quick and then popped really back up. Sometimes you need to have your orders in place and also keep your stops. So as soon as my order got triggered, my stop was also triggered. So it's not like I'm trading blind here or trading and not realizing what's happening. Always have your stops in place no matter what. But we did have a nice little rotation down. We said we have support down to 45, 46, got down to 45 and a 75 there, and then pop right back up. So maybe you guys jumped in there to the 46 area, which was that old first resistance level that we had, but it also matched up with a technical reason on the charts. So kind of got us two reasons to maybe jump in there if you did that. So even though we were talking, we didn't get the 64 above, but we did come back down here and give us this little play here for us. Obviously, the 54 also worked, depending on, if you traded, even if you kept 54 straight up, I think you got a nice rotation off of that when it did happen. And now we're just kind of drifting a little lower. I would say probably right now 40 would be a little support. Otherwise, I would just look at the 30 on the downside if you're more risk averse. 40 is a little bit risky if you're going to take it. Again, depending on your risk tolerance and what you're trying to do, if you're trying to look for trades, those are reasons to trade. Anything that I say does have, we do teach in our education course. If this stuff is something you'd like to expand your horizons on a little bit, then let us know. And we'll be more than happy to help. All right. So again, the market is definitely slower these days, simply because of where we're at and how we are rallying, and it is what it is. So, Don, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. You got me talking a lot this morning.
That computer will do it to you.
The computer will do it to me every time, especially since I have to fix it. It's not good when I have to fix it.
I asked Brad if you were blessing it this morning.
Oh yeah, I was blessing it. All right, I was kicking it, pushing it, shoving it. I'm like, come on, this is what's happening now? Why is this not working now? I don't get it. I come in here. The last thing you need in the morning is to have. You're looking at this thing and it's like frozen. I'm like, why is this frozen? And I'm doing everything I can. I go, well, I got to restart this thing. So I have to restart it, but that is what it is. But anyway, again, patience is important. Just like the bond market, we might, take a little bit of a break to the downside here. I don't know, because we've had a very strong rally over the last week, I would say. So be a little bit careful.
I mean, last week it was just sideways. It's kind of like you could have probably figured out the numbers on Monday and used them all the way to Friday.
Oh, really? So yeah. I picked a good week to leave then.
Oh, well, it was a good trading week.
Oh, good.
I think we got run over maybe 3 times.
Mm-hmm. It's all that matters, as long as you're taking advantage of whatever the market gives you. So it could be slow, but as long as it bounces off of areas, that's all we can care. That's all we care about.
Yep.
All right. I have to actually. My wife is actually babysitting, and she wants me to help her. Believe it or not, because she's solo. My daughter's is a teacher, and she's starting her teaching job. Well, the teachers will go back to school this week, and I tell you, the kids go back to school so much earlier now. It's like you're August. It used to be like after Labor Day. Now we're
Yeah.
like at the beginning of August, and now the kids are going back to school.
Are they pushing the year-round school up there? They've tried it here for years, tried to push it, but it seems like it gets shorter though. The summers do.
Well, it's weird. They say that, well, here they used to say that you needed to start a little bit earlier because you have snow days in Chicago,
Yeah.
right? So kids have to take off because the snow is so bad that yeah, they can't get to school, so they took snow days.
And
Right?
we have hurricane days.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
that was the first thing. Then they say, okay, well, it gets too hot here in the summer. Some of the schools don't have air conditioning, so let's start a little earlier so we don't go late into June. And now that's another reason we're starting early. So it's like they give every reason in the world. I don't understand when they just go 24/7, 365 days, and then everybody's happy. But I don't know. They keep giving different reasons for starting earlier and earlier.
We were laughing yesterday about schools when we started school when we were young. They didn't have air conditions.
Right.
You go in there and you lay your hand on the paper and you pick your hand up and the paper would stick to you. It's just all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, and still a lot of schools, older schools still don't have air conditioning, even though they were built 20 years ago. Some they never thought, kids, they're not in school like July and August, which are the hotter months. So they say, okay, well, we don't need air conditioning, but you do because it gets hot in May. Sometimes it gets really hot. If the kids have summer school, for sure it gets hot. So they've changed that recently with the newer buildings, but they not, as of 20 years ago, when my kids, one of the schools that they were at, and was newly built, they did not have air conditioning. Cost too much money, I guess, to keep them up. I mean, that's here. You should have air conditioning all the time.
It's all the new schools do. But back then, I remember growing up, we didn't even have air conditions in the house. We had attic fans.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay. I don't remember those. Maybe Brad will. We always had air conditioning. So yeah, that would be bad. But I could see that. I mean, I could definitely see. We did not have air conditioning in San Diego.
Isn't it nice?
Oh, it was beautiful though. I mean, I have to admit, they first told us that there's no air conditioning in the gyms, I was like, what? Are you kidding? But it was gorgeous.
You don't need it. I went out there. Encinitas is between just on the other side of San Diego, and I went up there to a guy that he was the head poinsettia grower for all the U.S. and I was in his facility and I was asking him. I says, "What do you do when this problem crops up?" He says, "We don't have that problem." I said, "How come?" He said, "It's not that hot here." And I says, "Well, what are we to do?" He said, "Move." Like, I can tell you.
And move.
Yeah. But I mean, he was about a mile from the Pacific Ocean up on the side of a hill. And it was just nice breeze. You couldn't ask for a better climate.
No, it's gorgeous. It was beautiful every day. Yeah. If you were in the shade, sometimes it got a little hot in the sun, but if you were in the shade, it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was the weather. I mean, if you're going to move to anywhere, San Diego, you're going to go to California, San Diego's the place to go.
I went to Cincinnati one time, and I'm standing on a street corner, and these ladies come up there, and I'm just enjoying this climate. And she says, "Oh, it's so hot today." And I started turning around and said, "Well, let me trade with you."
Yeah. Well, we were in San Diego, and the person's complaining about how humid it was. I'm like, humid? What? What are you talking about? Oh yeah, there's like some big storm in Mexico and it's throwing all the humidity up here. I'm like, what are you talking? Humid? This is beautiful. Humid. It's so humid. I'm like, what are you talking about?
We never appreciate what we have.
No, you don't. No, they don't. They don't. They were spoiled down there. That's for sure. All right. Well, everybody stay safe and stay out of trouble. We talked about some of our trades we talked about today, and hopefully we're able to take advantage of them. Obviously, we focus on the morning hours. The late afternoon could get one way or get even slower, depending on if they make a move to the downside. Could become a little bit trickier. If they rally, it's going to be very slow. We're up a whole bunch of points. As you can see, we're up almost 200
39,
points. Well, 200.
39. Oh,
Well, yesterday we were at 41. We're 150 points up from yesterday.
Yeah.
So much better. So it's patience. I don't know. When they go up, they're slow. You can see how slow yesterday was in the afternoon. We had a nice move here, but then they do seem to tend to tighten it up a little bit. Inflation hedge. If they were going to get the gold move, it was going to happen before. Now that inflation is kind of tamed a little, I don't know. I'm not a gold guy, but I would say that inflation maybe is more under control a little bit. I think before. I think 2 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, before all this big break, I think that gold was trading around 1,600. They did pop it up to, I think it got over to 2,000 at some point, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, but they did rally it in the midst of the rotation to the downside in the S&Ps and the fear of inflation. So now that we are just kind of sidewinding here a little bit, again, the gold was, inflation hedge. But now it's kind of settled back in here. I'm guessing. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure, but I think they did push gold up above 2,000 when we were really the inflation was going a little bit nuts. But it seems that is under control a little bit, and maybe that's why it's not rallying anymore. I'm not a gold trader, so total speculative comment there. All right, everyone will just be a little cautious to the downside because you just never know if this thing's going to take some profits or not. You can see we've rallied a long way here over just the last 2 days. So a little profit taking may be in order, but you have the levels on the downside. There they are in the chat. Trade them with some stops and tread lightly here. Again, to get the late afternoon trade gets a little bit choppier one way. So keep that in mind. I'll get back here in a little bit.
Enjoy.
You too. Take care, Don. Thanks, by the way.
No problem.
A couple quick shout outs and programming notes. For those that haven't signed up for Sol's subscription, I'll send it out to you now. It's a discounted link only found in this service at this time. Out to everybody now. Hey Revla, how are you? Maria. Hey Glenn, KG, Roop, Mauricio, Frank, KG, everybody else, welcome aboard. TradeAlongLive.com, TradeAlongLive.com. Join us on a daily basis from 9 a.m. to about 11:30. Morning session, 2, 3, 4, 5 trades based on a price action trading methodology. If you'd like to learn how to trade, let us know. We can help you. If you'd like to trade along, pop in, join us, subscribe. Let us know how we can help you in your trading journey.